Good evening, Jonathan. Thanks for taking time off your busy schedule for this interview. Now, could you let us know how and why did you go into mediation?
Well, my interest in mediation first started probably around 2005 when I realized that litigation and the process of litigation may not always be necessarily the best tool to resolve disputes. I'm not saying that litigation is not useful at all. Litigation is obviously very useful, but not in all cases. In many cases that we do as dispute resolution professionals, the main drivers of a dispute are not actually legal. They are actually emotional. They arise from miscommunication between parties. They arise from unmet expectations. And mediation, I would treat mediation as another arrow in the quiver of people who are interested in dispute resolution as a profession or who practice it as mediators. It enlarges the ability of people to deal with disputes, and it takes it away from being directly confrontational into a problem-solving process between the disputants, facilitated by the neutrality of the mediator. And it is that aspect about being able to really get into the heart and nub of the dispute that really attracted me to mediation. In the many mediations I have done in court, at the SMC, I'm happy to report that most of them have been successful. If not fully, at least they have been successful in resolving some of the substantive issues between the parties, and while parties may have gone on to carry on litigation, one could say that there has been a measured success because the issues that went on to litigation were significantly reduced from when they first started. So if nothing more, at the very least the scope of the dispute has been significantly reduced and parties are spending much less time in court. So the ability to do that is one of the main attractions of mediation.
And what keeps you interested in mediation?
Well, I know it sounds a little silly, but I think it's the personal satisfaction of seeing parties actually walk away. I hesitate to use the word happy because no one is ever happy at the end of a mediation. Parties are at best relieved, satisfied, but it's all relative. When people walk into the room, they are actually angry. Many times they are yelling at one another, and they come in with their lawyers, and everyone takes a very confrontational, aggressive, hostile approach. And at the end, when we are successful, I think there's a great sense of satisfaction when people are they come out and they say, you know what, I may not be entirely happy with this, but I'm satisfied enough and I'm relieved that this entire experience is over, and I'm glad I didn't have to carry on to go to trial, for example. So what keeps me going is, first of all, personal satisfaction, looking at these people. The second reason that keeps me going is that in many of the mediation cases I've done, I've actually seen that the mediation session has enabled people to address a lot of the drivers and the human drivers behind a legal dispute. And in one occasion, the relationship actually improved because as a result of the mediation session, when both sides were sharing their concerns with one another, both sides actually realized that they had misunderstood each other's intentions, but that could not have come out if parties had just stayed on the litigation strictly legal route, and both sides ended up having an even stronger relationship as a result of this this very frank and open, honest communication.
So what advice would you have for someone who wants to become a mediator, who might be interested in mediation? What sort of qualities should he or she possess?
I think that the first quality that a mediator would need to have is patience. Patience because you have to realize that in mediation, it is not cross-examination. You cannot just cut straight to the chase. You have to let parties vent out their stories, because that's part of the process of mediation. People just need to get the monkey off their back and to tell their story to someone who's listening for the first time, and you have to be understanding, and you have to be very clear about what they're telling you, and you need to distill the issues. So you have to be patient and you have to understand the issues. The second thing that I would say from my personal perspective as a lawyer is that some legal understanding is, I would say, generally required. I won't say that without legal training one can't be a mediator, because that's very far from the truth. There are many good mediators who are not lawyers, but I believe that there's an advantage that mediators who are lawyers have. And the reason is very simple. At the end of the day, parties will come into the mediation with their positions couched in legal terms, because they would already have initiated proceedings, they would have their writ of summons, they would have their defense and counterclaim, and they would have a reply and defense to counterclaim. They may even have gone as far as filing particulars against each other, for example. One of the key aspects of mediation is for the mediator to employ reality testing against the participants in the mediation, and my sense is that it would be a little bit difficult for a non-legally trained person to employ reality testing if they do not have a sufficient understanding of the legal principles at hand. Thirdly, I would say that at the end of the day, we as mediators have to acknowledge that we cannot solve the problems of other people no matter how hard we try, and therefore my advice is don't feel bad if the entire mediation session goes south and both sides stomp out of the room. That's because my experience has shown that many times parties need to reach what I call litigation fatigue or dispute fatigue, and that means that parties need to get the fight out of their system. And so it's very difficult to attempt to mediate a settlement at the beginning of the fight when both parties are raring to go at each other's throats. I have found that parties tend to be more amenable to mediation and settlement, probably about 1/3 way through into the process. Pleadings have been filed, and both sides have somewhat bloodied each other in the fight, and possibly they've paid quite a lot of money to their lawyers as well. And then they hit the realization that, you know what, okay, I think it may be time to just talk and let's see what the other side has to say. So to would-be mediators, don't think that one session is all it takes to magically convince both sides to be friends. I prefer to take a practical view of it, and that people may not always come out as friends, but the bar is actually a lot lower if people don't subject themselves to the rigors of the trial process. If they don't need to, then you have already done your job as a mediator.
Thank you.